And it's mentioned in the commentary of Ibn Qasir that Hazrat Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, he said he had wished that the beloved Prophet had thrown more light on three things. One being riba, and the other two being khilafah and kalala. That is, how a property of a deceased person who has no relatives, how it should be divided, which is mentioned in Surah Nisa chapter 4 verse number 12. But from the hadiths you can come to know clearly, besides the mention in the Quran, it's also mentioned in the Sahih hadiths. If you read the index, that is the glossary of Sahih Bukhari in volume 1, under the topic of riba, it is said riba is of two types. Riba nasiya, that is loan given to a person for business and interest charged on that loan. And riba fadal, that is exchanging a superior quality of good in turn for bigger quantity of inferior quality of good, irrespective it may be gold, silver, foodstuff, etc. And it says all types of riba are prohibited. The prohibition of riba is also clearly mentioned in Sahih Muslim in volume 3 in chapter number 623, hadith number 3845 to 3849. 5 hadiths which clearly mention in Sahih Muslim that riba is prohibited. Let us analyze what are the objectives of the Islamic economic order. Why does Quran promulgate an interest-free economy? There are basically 4 objectives for an interest-free economy promulgated by the Quran. The first is the economic well-being within the framework of the moral norms of Islam. The second is universal brotherhood and justice. The third is equitable distribution of wealth. And the fourth is individual freedom within the context of social welfare. Let's analyze the first objective, that is economic well-being within the framework of the moral norms of Islam. The Quran mentions in Surah Baqarah, chapter number 2, verse number 68, that eat and drink of the sustenance provided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and create no mischief or evil on the face of the earth. A similar thing is repeated in Surah Baqarah, chapter number 2, verse number 160, which says that eat of the produces of the earth and follow not the footsteps of the evil one, for he is to you an avowed enemy. It's further mentioned Surah Jummah, chapter number 62, verse number 10, that after the prayer finished, disperse ye in the land to seek the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From these verses you can realize that the Quran encourages the people to enjoy the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to enjoy the good things which Allah has provided for you. It is mentioned in the hadith narrated on the authority of Al-Bayhaqi that the person who seeks the world lawfully to cater to the need of his family, to avoid begging and to be kind to his neighbor, will meet Allah with a shining face like the full moon. Begging has been discouraged in Islam. It's also mentioned in Sahih Bukhari, chapter number 2, volume number 2, page number 133, that the hand that is above is better than the hand that is below. It's also mentioned in the hadith of Ibn Majah, volume 2, page number 723. It says that the best income a person can earn is through his labor. So Islam encourages the person to enjoy the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to work for his living and to refrain from begging. The second objective is universal brotherhood and justice. The best verse that I can quote to you from the Quran regarding universal brotherhood is from Surah Al-Hujurat, chapter number 49, verse number 13, which says that, O humankind, we have created you from a single pair of a male and female and have divided you into nations and tribes so that you shall recognize each other, not that you shall despise each other. And the most honored in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the person who's the most righteous, is the person who's the most pious. From this verse you come to know the criteria for judgment in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is not sex, it is not wealth, it is not caste, it is not color, but it is taqwa. It is God consciousness. It is piety. Further, we also come to know that during the speech of the farewell pilgrimage of Hajjatul Wida, our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him, he said that no Arab is superior to a non-Arab. Neither a white is superior to a black, except in righteousness, except in piety, except in God consciousness. The best words that I can quote from the Quran regarding justice is from Surah Nisa, chapter number 4, verse number 135, which says that, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, O you who believe, stand out firmly for justice as witness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if it be against yourself, against your parents, against your relatives, or the rich or poor, for Allah protects all. Means if you have to stand for truth, if you have to stand for haqq, if you have to give a witness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can even go against yourself. You have to sacrifice your own interest. You can even go against your parents, against the relatives, or irrespective whether the person who you are going against is rich or poor. You have to stand firmly for justice as witness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The third objective is equitable distribution of the income, of the wealth. Islam is against the philosophy that the wealth should be concentrated in the hands of few individuals, and the difference between the rich and the poor should be reduced. Otherwise, they will be enemies unto each other. For this, Islam has devised a system called as zakat, that every Muslim who has a saving, who has a wealth of more than the nisab level, more than the minimum wealth required, he has to pay 2.5%, 1/40th of that wealth every lunar year to the poor people. And the categories to whom zakat can be given has been clearly listed in the Quran in Surah Tawbah, chapter number 9, verse number 60, which says that zakat can be given to a fuqara, to a person